All right, so Denise, we're going to go through the overview session of a Little Voice Mastery program and get you trained up on kind of what I do and how I take somebody through a Little Voice Mastery kind of overview session. What probably has happened prior to this point is that a client has either been to an event, had an experience, had a 90-minute meeting with us, something like that, and they're now ready to start a Little Voice Mastery program. What would be set up at this point in advance was they either will have their kit already in front of them or it will be inbound to them, like yours is inbound to you right now. And you just want to make sure that the very latest they get this is before their very first like session number 1. So I always say my Little Voice programs are they're really a 6-week program, but it has 7 because there's an overview. So I call it the overview session and then session 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it really ends up being like a 7-week training program. Okay? So the purpose of this initial meeting in an overview is to A, get to know this client that you may not know as much about yet, and B, it's really to kind of set the ground rules, set the context for your entire relationship and set them up to succeed. And in my opinion, this meeting and the second meeting, or session number 1, after the overview, are the 2 most important meetings you can have during the entire one. Okay? So we might shortcut a few things on today's overview, but that kind of gives you the boundaries for it. Make sense? And if at any point you have questions about why would I do something one way or the other, just go ahead and ask that. So for purpose of the training video, because I'm sure if you're thinking it, there may be other people that watch this video that are thinking the same. Okay? All right. So I'd normally start out with, I wouldn't do a what I feel like saying or anything because you're not contextualized with that yet. So I would just start talking with you. Denise, I'm so excited to get you started. You know, I don't know if you have any questions before we begin, but let me kind of tell you how I'd frame today. Okay, that's what I would do. I would say, so today what we're going to do is help set you up for success, make sure that you get the most out of your 6-week program that you're about to go through, and I'll kind of give you an overview of this whole process. The other thing I want to do today is get to know you a little bit better and make sure that I understand what you're looking to accomplish out of this training program, and really, you can get to know me and I'll get to know you. Does that sound like a plan for today? Okay, awesome. So before we get into a few things, and we'll kind of do the abridged version right now, but before we get into it too much, Denise, do you mind giving me a little bit of information? Like, I'd like to know kind of maybe the 5-minute version, and it's okay to do 5 minutes, the 5-minute version of how you got to be where you are right now. Like, what got you into this industry? What got you into this business? And I know I kind of know this stuff already, but I want to hear it from you fresh for this 6-week program. So you can kind of give me the 5-minute synopsis of you getting to where you are today?
I can do it in 5 minutes.
It's okay. I'll watch your time.
All right.
Cliff Notes version.
Yeah. Been in sales since I was 25, now 60. I started my business sales career hiding that staircase in tears, afraid to make a prospecting call. That led me to creating my own sales training for therapy for me, and realized that other people needed it as well. So about 20 years ago, actually started a business from that called Denise Prospecting. Had a lot of great success, a lot of great clients. And by the way, all along, from the moment I've been in sales, I've been in some form of personal development. Sales elicits all that crap that comes up, and so I had to be dealing with all the demons in my head, and you know, being able to persevere and go through it all. So anyway, I created painless prospecting. Chunked along with that for years. Started to work with large corporations, UPS. Traveled all over the country with them. That led to banking. So I ended up working with non-traditional salespeople. I really thought that the program was for salespeople, but I found that the ones who wanted it the most and got the most impact out of it were working with non-traditional customer service departments, call centers. Banks went into a sales culture in the 90s, and a lot of people were kicking and screaming, but I didn't go into banking to be a salesperson. What are you doing? So, anyways, to make a long story short, I had some great success in the banking industry. Numbers like $13 million of additional business in 12 weeks, and that was just in to all that was that it couldn't sustain. And that drove me crazy because it's like, I created this, how could it not have sustained? And again, as I said, I've been on a quest for personal development for a lot of years, and one thing led to another, and I ended up in a room with Blair Singer. And Blair threw a few things on a flip chart, and I realized, oh, that's what was missing. I was working on what I call the outside, or the behaviors. You know, let's change your actions, let's change how you're saying things, and so on and so forth. But I wasn't dealing on the inside, which is how they thought. So I could teach them every snappy technique in the world, but if their internal dialogue was saying, that won't work for me, and you don't understand me, and all that crapola, I got people who would do it when there was a gun at their head, which is typically what happened because management hired me and said, we're paying them a lot of money, just do what she tells you. And they'll do that to survive for the period. And then that was the 12 weeks. So the 12 weeks would go away, and then I would go away, and everything would evaporate. So when I saw what Blair was doing, I thought, wow, my clients need this, and when they need him, and then I realized there's one of him, and my clients aren't big enough to afford his fees. Then he said, I'm looking for people to take this back to their markets, and that's going to raise the end to 15. So I went for a 2-day training and stayed 7. And ended up buying the rights to his work and bringing it home with me. So
awesome.
You know, and then again, the impact that I can have with companies, I've always been about making a difference. And my work has always been about making a difference for people. And I've always been about improving human performance. So whether that be physically, mentally, emotionally, whatever, I'm probably shooting myself as the guinea pig. So I work with personal trainers, I work with coaches, I work with people to make me, my husband used to call it bigger, better, faster. And it's not even that it has to be bigger, better, and faster, it's about growth. So however growth looks, you know, and that's why I've been attracted to this work. That's why my life purpose has been this work. In some variation of it, whether it be through sales partners, whether it be through English prospecting. And I've always said that these are vehicles. They're not the vehicle, they are vehicles. So, because I believe I'm on this planet to provide life-changing information and life-changing experiences for massive amounts of people.
Awesome.
And so I know what stops me more than anything else is what's going on between my left ear and my right ear. So that's why I want to manage that too.
Excellent. So perfect. And again, I'm going to trim this down a little more than I normally would. I might ask you, you know, what was your favorite part, favorite job you ever had, things that worked for you. I might go a little bit deeper in a normal session, just to uncover it and poke at things to find out, you know, if there's any. And I'm just so you know, I'm listening for hang-ups, issues, giant wins, huge successes, things that in your history and in your past may be triggered throughout your program. That's what I'm listening for. Okay? Because I may go back to, in your program, some of this, crying on the staircase, or having a big success, then having it fail, or whatever that. I'm looking for patterns, and I'm starting to log those patterns now. I'm not telling that client that, but that's what I would normally be doing. So I want you to give me 1 minute of where you're at right now in your business, and just catch me up. And I want you to be as honest as possible about where you're at. We talked about it a little in advance, but give me 1 minute about where you are right now in your business.
Well, to tell you where I am right now, I have to tell you where I was. Where I was out of track, and we were generating, our goal had been, I had an associate that worked with me. Our goal was $25,000 every month sustainably. We had peaks and valleys in months that we would hit that. We were at around 17,500, 18,000, and knowing one of those clients was about a $6,200 a month client. That was a project, and that project was going away. So we knew that project was going away, so we took it down to around 10, 5, 12, somewhere around there. And then all of a sudden, a $4,500 client said they pulled the plug. And then a $2,500 client pulled the plug. So I'm literally, 20% of the revenues I was at. So I've lost about 80% of my revenue stream. The person that was with me is no longer with me. A, I couldn't afford to keep them any longer, and B, it just wasn't working. She couldn't get any company, but it was time to move on, and I was in a point of I was growing and she wasn't. She didn't care to grow, and when I started to put some pressure on this about, it's all hands on deck, we all have to sell now, this isn't the arrangement was that I did the selling, and I did the training, and she did the fulfilling and the coaching, and the logistics in the back of the room. And when I needed her to sell, she just couldn't, wouldn't, shouldn't, whatever. And so I said, I'm not going into debt to support you. Enough that I got to be in debt to support me. But, so, there was the end of that. And I'm in a new place. And so what I'm very clear on is what it's going to take is lots of activity. And the other piece that I need to be honest, brutally honest, and share this with, is I abdicated a lot. I did what I loved, which was the training, and the coaching was, it wasn't my first love. It was too slow. I wanted, quick. I wanted big ahas. I wanted people to get them fast and move on. And coaching was very slow and methodical and tedious, and it wasn't quick enough for me. Mm-hmm. And so I abdicated that to her, but by abdicating, I was missing a very good piece. And so it was difficult to sell coaching and partnering without really experiencing it, other than experiencing what it's like when I get coached, but not knowing. And now that I've had to get involved in this, it's been amazing because I can quickly see, what a business needs. And now I can communicate it more effectively than I could before.
Good.
So, although I've taken a couple steps backwards, it is a good place. And we talk about here, we talk about debugs. You go from good to bad to ugly to great. So I went from good to bad, and then we're now in ugly, and what's left is great. And so you gotta, something I've never liked doing is looking at the ugly. And so I've always veered away from that, or distracted myself, or became delusional about, I could be, there's a pony in this picture somewhere. And there always is an opportunity inside chaos. But am I looking at the opportunity from being delusional because I won't look? I don't want to look over there. Versus look and it's still not.
Gotcha.
So that's my big thought.
Good. And what I would just say, again, from training purposes, is where you're at is not unlike a lot of people. They either make a decision because they need to change, they need to do something. They've usually hit a wall where they said something needs to happen, and so this was my time. I talked to somebody earlier today that was starting their program, and I said, why did you want to do this? And they said, because I know that now's the time for me to do it. Just the stars aligned, and this is the moment that needs to be happening. And I think there's no mistake that we're starting right now where you are in your business, Denise. And so, again, as I kind of would go through what you would normally hear in a conversation, I would ask some more questions, probe into that. And typically in this session, I would spend about 30 minutes on this part of it. So we're about 13 minutes in. I would usually spend about 30 minutes on this, and then 20 minutes and 10 minutes. And I'll kind of share what I mean by 20 minutes and 10 minutes, because I think I have about that now. Is that 20 minutes I'll spend walking through the code of honor, and about 10 minutes on some guidelines, kind of roughly, sometimes 15 and 15. It just depends on my time management skills as I go through it. What I would normally do at this point is I would say, do you have any questions for me about my coaching ability, background? Because I want to suss out any little voice that they have about, well, I don't know if you're really good at this or whatever. 99% of the time, people go, no, I'm good. I already know what I need to know about you. That's why I'm here. And they don't ever even ask a question. Sometimes they'll ask one or two things about my background, but that's about it. Sometimes people want to know if I've been to school or something like that.
Right. So, that would have been a question.
Just hang up on that. You're totally fine. What's that?
Someone's calling me on Skype right now.
Yeah, that's okay.
I was trying to line up on Skype.
Yeah, that's okay.
Decline it?
Yeah, if you can just hit decline, that's fantastic. Good. So anyway, to answer the question how I would normally answer that, if somebody asks about education, I say, look, I'm a self-educated person. I'm a school of hard knocks kind of guy myself. My wife is the smart one. She went to school and has her master's degree. She could go back to school in 6 months, get her doctorate if she chose to do that. She's a physical therapist. And And what I do is very self-educated. I grew up in a household of business owners. My grandparents and my parents both owned businesses, and I grew up in a psychology and psychiatrist household with my grandparents. So they've run a global coaching organization on personal development, and when I came to Sales Partners and found out what we do here, I was impressed that it was personal development and business development married together. And so most of my education, as far as in this technology we're going to be going through, is directly through Sales Partners. So I have, 10, actually 15 years now. I keep saying 10 like it's still 10, but I have 15 years of business and marketing experience. I've owned 7 other businesses, and my specialty, and I usually say this too, even if they don't ask too much, I say my specialty is in helping people that have been hitting a ceiling and not being able to push past it, to help them push past that ceiling and get further than they've ever gotten before. And I love working with people who've already been successful but need to unlock more of that success. That's what I specialize in. I don't specialize in people taking people from the ground up. I usually specialize in working with people who've either kind of quote-unquote lost their mojo or have just hit a ceiling and they want to push past it. Does that make sense? That's my own personal experience. I would recommend for anybody watching this, you decide what your personal experience is that you're going to share with them and just kind of continue to use that same piece. So, getting in the call. Denise, you should have received a box or will be receiving a box that looks like this. It says LVMP, which stands for Little Voice Mastery Program. Inside that box, and if they don't have it, I'll just show it to them. You should have this very nice leather with red stitching binder that all says LVMP. This is your notes that you're going to be taking through this program. So when you get this, write your name on there, write the date that we're going to start the program, and then my name on there as your mentor. Inside, there's a letter from Blair, which talks about this program. Blair is the founder of our company and has a great message for you about what you're about to get into. There's also a section on goals, which we're going to start with as we go through on your first session. And we're going to be talking about in the center section here, it says, what does it say there?
Code of honor.
We're going to be starting that today. So if you had your book, I'd have you do this. If not, I'd have you do it in your first session. This says at the top, how many week program?
12.
12. So here's what I always say to that, because this is not a 12-week program. This is a 6-week program. So the very first thing I want you to do is cross out 12 and write 6. Because my job is to help you get done as much as you could normally do in 12 weeks, but get it done in 6. That's how I choose to do that. And you also inside that book should have the Little Voice Mastery CD and the Little Voice Mastery book. And depending on what program, you also will have the goal setting audio CD. Like I said, I don't have any of those, but that would also be something that you would potentially receive in a pack from me. Okay? So that's your introduction to your kit and what's going on. Any questions, anything like that? Good to go. You can explain it. Okay? So what I'm going to do yep, go ahead.
So you just said depending on which package you chose, you'd either get the goal setting or not goal setting. So
yeah, what I mean by that is, there's kind of some flexibility in there. My recommendation is everybody who goes through a 6-week program also goes through a goal setting program. It's $197. It either gets thrown in and added into the program as a bonus, or you can have them paid to go through it separately. But I feel like if somebody pays $35.95, for me to kick in the $197 to have them do that, it's a good thing. Okay. So I usually just give them, that's part of the pack, is the goal setting program and this, and between their overview session and their first session, they listen to the goal setting program. That's their homework on their very first session.
And do you do this with the $1,500 version of this, that you have the
I would, just because it's that important to me. The goal, because like I said, in this session and the next session, it's that critical. And again, remember, that's retail price. The wholesale price is only about $100. So if you imagine your retail cost then is about $230 in hard cost on that. So whatever that shapes out to be. But to me, if you want to have the best Little Voice Mastery program, put them through the goal setting. If you leave that out, you got to spend more time on it. I'd rather give them the audios and let them go through it and then retune it. Okay? All right. So now I would transition into the second part, which is the Code of Honor. If you had your booklet, I'd have you write that down in your booklet. But since you don't right now, just write it on a sheet of paper. I'm going to walk you through the Code of Honor. Basically, the Code of Honor, and I'm going to assume that somewhere in your sales process that we went through, we talked about and discussed a Code of Honor. Probably in the Sell Team Teach model on the way to selling this program to you, we've talked about. I know you're familiar with it. So a Code of Honor shouldn't be a huge thing to discuss. So what I typically say is, look, all of my clients that I work with, in every capacity, we find that there are ways that we can work together to maximize our efficiency, and by having a set of rules that we both operate by can help us to do that. So I'm going to outline for you the Code of Honor that we found to work with hundreds of clients and hundreds of businesses all over the planet to go through this. I'm going to read through some of these, And what you may experience is some of these might seem really easy. Some of these may seem extremely difficult. It's okay, whatever one they are for you, I just want you to take note of and discuss with me as we go through it. Okay? So basically, what I do, just so you know what I'm doing on this end, and I don't send this to them, this is just what I'm reading. I read through the actual code of honor that you would find inside your partnering binders. Okay? And I, just like what I did, I grabbed one of my partnering binders and I grabbed one. You can see this one's already filled out from another client. Technically, if you wanted to, print another one out or have an extra surplus with you and take notes for their code of honor as you're going through this via Skype. One other thing I forgot to mention that may be important. I typically would have, before this appointment, I would have made sure their Skype was functioning so that we could start and do this on time and have some sort of Skype test either with an admin assistant or with me prior to this meeting. Otherwise, there could be technical difficulties before they begin your program.
Because what was happening and why the Skype was coming up is because my client had just had Skype put on and I declined him. So we wanted to make sure that the Skype was working. So.
All right. So that's I just remembered that's something else I forgot to mention earlier is that there would be a Skype test involved. Make sure that you add them and all that stuff so that you don't waste 5 to 10 minutes in the beginning trying to get their Skype going.
Right.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to walk you through this code of honor. Basically, and I'm going to read it. I almost read it verbatim here. The Sales Partner Code of Honor establishes the ground rules for success in your partnering program, and you and your sales partner agree to live by these rules in order to drive results in your business. A common set of rules is the first step towards a successful partnering process, or, and I'm adding this, a little voice mastery process. Okay, so I'm going to walk through these goals. Now again, Denise, I want you to write these down. If you had your booklet, you'd write them down right in the center in the Code of Honor. These are the rules you're going to play by. Okay, so rule number 1, and write this down. Keep an open mind. Now all I need you to do is write that piece. Keep an open mind. Basically, as your sales partner, I'm going to be introducing you to new concepts, giving you clear, direct communication, and I'm going to push you to take your business to the next level of performance. It's important that you eliminate the I know that attitude from your vocabulary and watch for fresh perspective. I always say that you should listen with a fresh set of ears and see with a fresh set of eyes. Does that make sense? And I'm going to race through these a little faster than normal just for training. But Denise, when we go to the end, I want you to really think about which is 1 or 2 that you think would be a challenge for you, even at the position that you're at. Okay? Good. Good, good. Number 2, finish what you start.
That's it.
Organizational integrity depends on individual integrity. If you as a leader fail to follow through and reach completion, the rest of the organization will replicate your behavior. So you're telling me right now, and I would notice this, you said finishing what you start is going to be a problem. So I would typically also tell a story here, which I've had clients who have failed to finish their program. Of the 40, 50, I don't even know how many, 60 at this point I've done, I've had about 4 or 5 that have never completed. I do not want you to be one of those people. Those were originally on before I added this code of honor to it. So your commitment, once you start this program, Denise, is to finish what you start. Do I have your agreement on that? Thank you. Okay, stay in exchange. All deliverables and payments will be received and processed in line with all the agreements. Now, I typically charge cash in advance for this program, so I don't have to worry about payments or any of that stuff. In fact, I hate payments because payments say, well, if I don't like it, then I can just not pay it, and then it's fine. I hate that. And almost every time I do a payment scenario, somebody cancels out halfway through their program. Not a situation you want to be in, okay? But what I'll say is if they've paid cash in advance, I'll say stay in exchange. This means if you owe somebody money, you need to pay them up. If somebody owes you money, you need to collect it. I want you to stay in exchange. Because if you have employees that are trying to get paid and you're not paying them, but you want them to do the work, it makes it pretty difficult for them to do their job at 100% when they're sweating it out if they are going to get paid or not. Okay? Next one, and sometimes this is a big deal or not, celebrate all wins, build momentum and energy in your partnering program and your team by stopping to recognize wins both small and large. I know that's a part of our culture and that shouldn't be an issue, but I'm going to help you celebrate both small and large wins. With me?
Yep.
Okay. Next one, open and honest direct communication. This is a critical one, in my opinion, going through this. I want you to be honest in all personal and business transactions, speak your truth, and keep your communication direct and to the point. This is where I'm giving you permission to call it, as well as I'm asking for permission to call you. So I'm going to call it and also be willing to be called. So this is a two-way street here. Denise, if you hate this program, if you start out on week 1 and you're like, Jason, this is horrible, this is not what I expected, I fully expect you to tell me that, not to wait until session 3 and say, it's not really what I wanted. You have full permission at any time. If I ask you a question you don't like or something that doesn't sit right for you, Tell me immediately and I will do something about it. What I would never want to have happen is for you to stuff something like that and wait 3 weeks to tell me about it. Okay? Likewise, I want to have permission to be able to say, Denise, that's a behavior that is not suitable to the person you're trying to become. I need to have permission from you to call you on it and tell you that, but I can't do that without your permission. So do I have permission to call you on things? Okay, likewise, you have permission anytime to call me. Don't feel like you have to be the good student and do what you're told. This is a two-way street as a part of this process, okay? All right, good. Next one, take 100% responsibility. Write that down. No blame, justification, or denial. I want you, Denise, to be the owner and master of your life and business. When processing feedback either from me, your team around you, the market, or just the universe at large, don't fight it. Accept it, learn from it, make adjustments. There's a saying that says you can either be right or you can be rich, but you can't be both. Okay? Next up, honor all agreements. Honor all your agreements, especially time agreements, by being on time, by being early. Now look, I know there may be times when we break agreements. I may break them with you, you may break them with me. But clear them up as quickly as possible. So what I say is that I have a response time of 24 hours. Either somebody, myself, or somebody from my team can get back to you within 24 business hours. Now, if you need it faster, you can text me, email me, call my office, do whatever is necessary. But I'm going to ask the same if I reach out to you that you'll respond within 24 hours. Is that fair? Good, thank you. Next one, really important. When in doubt, take action. Business is about managed risk. We can correct the direction of a vehicle in motion, but it's very hard to correct the direction of a parked vehicle. You ever driven a car without power steering? How hard is it to steer the car when you're in the driveway? Almost impossible, right? You gotta really try hard. But as soon as the car gets in motion, you now can steer that vehicle. Right? So Denise, if you're not sure of something and you're like, oh, I'll wait to talk to Jason on Monday or whatever that is, just do something. I'd rather have you do something and be horribly wrong than for you to do nothing at all. Okay? And I see your smile there, so that means that's another one that might be a hot button for you, yeah? Good. So, and again, I'm looking to pick up how you respond to these, okay? Last one, which in my opinion is the most valuable, do whatever it takes to win so long as it's legal, moral, and ethical. Call it driving a true sense of urgency around your results versus complacency and false urgency, otherwise known as panic. Okay? Have you ever seen somebody that runs around, looks like they're busy, but they never get anything done? That's panic or false urgency. Okay? We're going to set up very clear milestones you're going to be working against to make sure that you're hitting your milestones. So we're going to be driving against those measurements and results. And again, it says do whatever it takes, so long as it's legal, moral, and ethical. So no robbing from the kids to make yourself succeed. I want you to be able to do this from a honest, trustworthy, legal, ethical, moral standpoint. Okay?
Okay.
Now, my favorite term here, it says drive against measurements and become two words. Primal and unreasonable about demanding results from yourself, your team, from me, the marketplace, and the universe. Denise, this is not a normal program. This is not a program where you go, okay, we'll see if this is helpful. This is, I want you to create things that are unreasonable. I have had people create hundreds of thousands of dollars in a few days after beginning this program. In fact, and I'll usually tell a personal story, I had a client last week on Monday this week, called me up, set a goal of 150 grand. Previously, he had only done $40,000 in sales in the last 6 months. He called me up on week 3 of his program, and he actually had called me up. He was laughing hysterically. I said, are you okay? And he goes, yeah, man, you'll never believe this, because he didn't think it was possible to do this 150 grand. He called me up and he goes, guess what? I got a call from a client, $138,000 order that this client wants to put in for me. I had no idea that was even possible. I said, and he wanted to set his goal lower. And I said, let's just keep it and see what's possible. Dude lands a $138,000 deal. And he goes, that's not the best part. He goes, the best part, and I can't remember the exact amount, it was like $18,000. He goes, the best part is I got another call the next day for $18,500 or something. And he goes, so do you know how close I don't know what the math is on that. I'm not a math guy. But he goes, basically, of his 150 grand, whatever the balance is, he said that of 150 grand, he was at 145, or 100, what was it? Of his 150 grand, he was 147.5 after week 3. And he goes, I didn't even think that was possible. So I want you to be primal and unreasonable, because what's the worst that can happen when you set these goals? You don't hit it? Well, congratulations, you already weren't going to hit it. So I want you to become primal and unreasonable in this program. Sound fair? Again, not your average program. Make sense? Okay. Now I would ask, are there any other rules that you would like to add to this, or do you think this covers them all? Okay. Most people say, nope, I'm totally good. Sometimes people add something, but usually not. Okay. And if they do add something, I go back and see if it fits into one of these categories. Okay. Because it usually does. Then I would also say, so which ones of these, and I'll just do this real fast, which ones of these, Denise, do you think stand out for you the most? I think you had said, finish what you start, and when in doubt, take action, right?
You got it.
Good. So now what I would do as a coach is monitor and watch that and make sure we were on the same page. Okay? All right, fantastic. So the other thing that I would do is I go, okay, there's one other thing I want to cover with you, which is a little voice mentoring guidelines, which you may see just pop up here on my screen for just a second as I'm pulling this up. But the little voice mentoring guidelines, I'll go ahead and pull those up here. All right, go back to the screen where you can see us. All right, so on the little voice mastery guidelines, basically what this is going to be, Denise, is that, and you'll see me look away because I'm reading these, is that these are helpful hints. So over the years, over the last 25 years, in fact, of us getting results, and I'll pull these on the screen so you guys can read along with me here, is that over the last 25 years, these are the optimal hints that we've had to help people create champion level performance. In fact, when I bring this up, this is when people realize that I'm being serious and that this is very different than most programs. So I'm going to go through these. Sometimes I would have you read them, but I'm going to read them due to our time.
Should I see them? Because I don't see them right now.
No, you don't have to see them at all. You have your printout over there. I would normally email this and walk it through with the client. Okay?
Got it.
So first one up is food. Mental and emotional work requires physical energy, so it's optimum to ensure your body is adequately fed before your session. Your body is like a car that enables you to get around in the physical universe, and food is fuel for the body. When the body's running properly, session results will increase dramatically. So Denise, all I'm saying is I don't want you to be distracted and hungry while we're on the phone because we're doing subconscious work, and your subconscious gets distracted if you are hungry. Make sense? So can I get your agreement on that?
Yep.
Fantastic. So rest. Sleep is another form of fuel for the body. You will maximize the value of your sessions when your body's well rested. So please get between 7 to 8 hours of sleep each night. Get enough sleep so that you feel well rested, not just the amount that keeps you going. So I see your face on there, which is why I'm on video. So is that a problem typically for you that you don't get 7 to 8 hours? Okay. So what I would ask then is to push you is that before our sessions, I'm going to ask that you make an extra effort to get those 7 to 8 hours of sleep. And I'll ask you at the beginning of your session, did you get 7 to 8 hours? Because if you really want to get the most out of that, that is going to be critical. I don't care if the rest of the week you don't sleep as well, but we'll work on that in your program. That might actually be a goal, okay? Great. Medical treatment. If you're receiving any dental, medical, or bodily treatment, or if you feel that you may need treatment, please let me know. Any physical conditions may need to be handled prior by your physician. Any sort of drugs or alcohol can greatly affect the efficiency of your session. If you're on any medications, please let me know. Alcohol can stay in your system for up to 24 hours. This is the one that sometimes makes people freak out a little bit, as I say, look, it stays in your system for 24 hours, and it should not be present at the time of your session. So Denise, I don't know what your drinking regimens are, but I just want to make sure that at least 24 hours in advance that you can refrain from drinking any alcohol. Would that be a problem for you? Okay. Now, sometimes people go, well, what does 24 hours really mean? Blah, blah, blah. Look, 24 hours is 24 hours. And if that's a deal breaker, I won't take them through their session. Because it's already showing me that they're resistant to changing. Okay? Most people should be able to refrain from drinking 24 hours in advance. I always just tell people, I'm like, just know when our session is, and 24 hours out, refrain from the glass of wine with dinner or whatever that normally is. Okay? All right. Also, too, some people bring up they might be on some medication for something else, ADD medication. I've had all kinds of things. I just would say, really check with them, find out what it is, do a little research on it. What I would say is I don't often turn people down if they're on some medication, but I really do pay attention to it. And my experience in taking people through this is that if they're on some sort of drug, even if it's for a hyper or anxious or whatever, is that will impact their session. You might have what's called a neutral person, or what I call a neutral person, where you ask them questions that doesn't seem to go anywhere. It's because they're freaking medicated. Okay, so if they're on any kind of medication, even if it's to quit smoking or something like that, it is impacting how they are responding to you. Okay, all right. So counseling or psychological treatment. If you're currently under the care of a psychologist or psychiatrist or any other mental health practitioner, or you're seeing someone on a regular basis which for any mental or emotional issues, please let me know, because you may need to complete that work first prior to doing this type of work. Because if you have 2 people giving you feedback, that could be in conflict, and you may need to finish that before this. So are you currently seeing any psychologist or psychiatrist?
No, I'm not.
Okay, thank you. And most people are not. It's pretty straightforward. Exercise on a frequent basis, Denise. Gentle activity is usually a better choice. Don't force yourself. Do something you really enjoy doing. Exercise not only helps the body, but it extroverts your attention, and it helps with emotional healing. So I know you exercise regularly, so that shouldn't be a challenge for you, right? Great. Appointments is really critical. We understand it may be required to reschedule a session during this process. If for any reason you need to, I just ask that you keep it in the same week, because this is really important. We do 6 weeks back to back to back to back. If you cancel a session, if it's not absolutely critical, it sends a message to your subconscious that you're not committed, and it can make the process more difficult. In fact, anytime I have a client who, and I'll just personal note, anytime I have a client who postpones a week, I know I'm in trouble. Because I have somebody who postponed a week and they've only finished their first 3 weeks, and in fact he's burning a hole in my brain right now because he has not rescheduled his next 3 weeks, and he's impossible to track down. That's a problem, because it means something's going on in his life and he's unwilling to face it, makes him unwilling to face me. Does that make sense? Okay. Now, the other thing I say is that if for some reason you can't keep an appointment, please let me know at least 24 hours in advance to arrange a different time. Also, I'm a busy person, as I know you are. If you have to reschedule, the likelihood of getting back on my schedule that week is pretty low. So it's really critical that you keep your appointments. Also, if you cancel same day, you forfeit that session. So we have a rule, though, that says finish what you... So if you forfeit a session, I will expect that you will pay a prorated rate to finish out your last session. So if you miss a session and it's forfeited, I will expect you to buy another session to finish your program. I've had clients do that in the past, but I just want to tell you that in advance so that you know if you're missing a session inside 24 hours, I will expect you to finish it and complete the project. Okay? All right, so and I've warned you in advance now, right? Okay, so support. Avoid any people, places, and situations which upset you. If you're involved with someone who seems to invalidate you constantly, or if there's someone in your life you feel you must not tell them you're going through this process, please let me know. So is there anybody in your life that invalidates you constantly?
No, but I have a client that's going through this right now and dealing with this.
Good. So if that's the case, and again, to answer it for the training purposes here, is that if they can, what you need to advise them is to avoid that person as often as possible. I have had people that are a spouse that have been in that spot. Honestly, most of the time, if I have somebody who's in that mode, they've either gotten physically ill and been unable to complete the program, or have had serious mental challenges as they go through it. So I just ask them to say limit it, and we'll keep an eye on it as we go through this program. But just know this is an at-risk or flighty person for you if they have somebody who invalidates them constantly, especially if it's a business partner or spouse. Okay, it's just these are warning signs early on. Right? Last part, and then I know, Denise, you have to run, is discussing sessions. Sharing your wins is part of the process and encourage, but bear in mind that other people, you can trigger their emotional junk by something you've already cleared. So when you talk about these sessions, keep your explanations relatively simple and kind of high level, even if you're talking to your spouse about them, just because I don't want you to get triggered by something else that's going on for them. I would more talk about what your win or your ahas were, or those celebration moments. That's usually the best. And especially if you're taking a husband and wife through separately or something like that, this would be critical for you to let them know. Your programs are all completely custom and separate. So when you're sharing even with each other, discuss high-level things. Don't get into too much of the details, because that could make it worse potentially for you. Okay? So these all make sense. Do I have your buy-in? Usually everybody's on board with this. They also would normally say, wow, that was a lot. I didn't believe how serious this was. Those kind of things. Okay? I know you got to run, but I got maybe 1-2 minutes more, Denise. Is that going to kill you, or are we okay with that? Okay. So the last thing I would say is you have homework between now and your next session. You have the 2 audios. There are 2 90-minute audio tracks with Mac Newton and Blair Singer. What I'd like you to do is 2 separate days. I want you to listen to the first 90-minute and then the second 90-minute of the goal setting. Take lots of notes. Keep your notes with you. You don't have to write in your booklet yet. We'll do that on your next session. I need you to commit to, between now and our next session, to listen to the first audio one day, second audio the next, and come to the meeting with your notes ready to go. Okay, so can you do that for me?
Yep.
Fantastic. Then I would ask if there's any other questions, or do you have anything like that, which I assume we're okay for right now, right?
Yeah, we're starting these on Mondays now, right?
Yeah, we'll be starting your sessions on Mondays, correct. You may
Mondays
want to
the 12th.
validate the next thing. Yep.
This Monday, which is the 11th, is our first session.
You got it.
Okay.
Okay.
So I got a lot to do between now and then.
Yes, you do. So last thing I'll say is this. I would teach the client how to do a what I feel like saying. In the future, when we start and end sessions, I'm going to teach you what I feel like saying. The reason for us doing that is to have a natural ending and a natural beginning to every one of our sessions, to get you mentally prepared to be in this session. So the way it works, might seem a little cheesy, is I'm going to teach it to you. It's very simple. I would say, Denise, what do you feel like saying? You would respond by saying, thank you, Jason. What I feel like saying is, and you're allowed to say whatever you want. I had a great session. I'm excited about this, whatever. Then you finish by saying, and that's what I feel like saying. So it's got bookends on there, okay? Then you pass it back to me, say, Jason, what do you feel like saying? And we'll wrap the call. We will start and end every call the same way because you'll have distractions from outside, I'll have distractions from outside, and I want to be focused on our meeting instead of anything else. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Great. So if there's nothing else I can do, we'll end this session and end this training, and then I'll pause the recording, we'll talk for a second, and then we'll be good to go. So, ready to go, Denise? All right, so let's try this out. Denise, what do you feel like saying?
I feel like saying is I'm a little anxious because I'm behind schedule and I really have to run, but thank you, this was very helpful. That's what I feel like saying. And Jason, what do you feel like saying?
What I feel like saying is I'm excited to get you started. I'm looking forward to learning more about you and taking you through this process. That's what I feel like saying.